Welcome on behalf of Common Threads. We're super excited to be here with you all and cooking. But we'll let Chef Jared kind of get settled and then I'll introduce Common Threads in just a second.
Yeah, and I know, Rachel, you guys have a brief intro from your end too. And
as soon as I can get Iman on.
Yeah, Iman's
but I did make you a co-host, so hopefully you're all set.
Great. Yeah, I'll just make sure that I'm good here. So if I'm spotlighting my cutting board cam, great. Everybody can see that. Thumbs up. You can hear me. I'll get rid of that. Great. All right. Yeah, as Cassie said, welcome everybody. If you want to get your all of your ingredients out, if you have any questions on the front end here while we're still settling in, maybe I will leave my, I'll pop my camera down so you can see my spread. If you want to, you can pin my video if you'd like. I won't spotlight it, just not to throw it. Oh, there we go. We got a spotlight. I've got different, so yeah, we've got, depending on what starch you picked, I know there were some options on the shopping list. Got lentils, got some brown rice. I also had some flatbread, or if you had some kind of pita or something going on. Canned tomatoes, canned chickpeas, or fresh cooked chickpeas. We had ginger and garlic, onion, turmeric, if that was an optional add, garam masala, fresh fennel, if you grab that, that's an optional add, cilantro or coriander, fresh coriander, and then some spicy peppers. I've got a serrano and a jalapeno to kick it up a little bit. But oh, and I threw in, I know if people wanted protein, I love my omega-3s just in about any option I can. So I've got some nice wild caught mackerel here to flake on top, and some yogurt and lemon to add as well. So olive oil, salt, vegetable or canola or grapeseed oil, some kind of neutral oil. Okay.
I'm in. Hello.
You're in. All right.
I am. I made it. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late a little bit. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, who do we have here? We have 25 people. Welcome, everybody. I am Iman Majd. I am a physician licensed acupuncturist. For those who don't know me, I'm currently the interim director of Osher Center at University of Washington. Welcome to our Cha Chiming event. We are very excited to host this event tonight. It's going to be interactive. We are going to cook an anti-inflammatory dish. We have our well-known Chef Jared with us and our colleagues from Common Threads. I don't know if you have had a chance to introduce yourself or not, but before we do the introduction and get to the cooking, I would like to thank my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Emily Wong. It's Dr. Emily Wong's donation and her family support that has made these Cha Chiming events available to us. So we are very, very excited and are looking forward to having more of this series of events in future. In fact, if there's a desire and people like to continue, we will have more of this series of cooking healthy together in future. So it would be wonderful. Here with me, I have Rachel Ward. She is one of my colleagues at the Osher Center, and I saw Dr. Lou Marchand, and I saw Dr. Heather Tick. And I don't know if anybody else is here, but welcome to everybody. Very exciting. And I saw Donna. Welcome, everybody. And so with that, Chef Jared, the floor is yours. If you want to introduce yourself, and then Cassie, you can tell us a little bit about the Common Threads, and we kick off from there.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Can you all hear me? All right. AirPods should be charged up enough to get me through the class. So thanks for having me. Thanks for the intro. My name is Jared. I'm tuning in actually from the opposite coast. I'm out in Jersey. I've been living on the East Coast in the Jersey, New York City area by way of Chicago, and that's how I got connected to the Common Threads world, and that's where Cassie's tuning in. But I've been in the food business the better half of my life, I should call it, or at least the half that I can remember, since I was a young teenager. So over 20 years now. and I just love cooking. I love food education. I think cooking classes offer the opportunity to talk about food, share stories, and talk about the health benefits behind food as well in the case of this class tonight. So I don't know. I don't need to go into my specific jobs and background. This isn't a resume review, but I've cooked a lot of wood-fired food. I'm closely tied to farmers markets wherever I go, especially in Chicago, as I was part of the Green City Market Board there. And again, that's part of the reason why I got connected to the Common Threads family through one of Cassie's colleagues. So thank you for having me. Excited to cook with you all tonight. And if you're not cooking tonight, hopefully you soak up some good knowledge and some insight, and you'll cook this dish soon enough. So passing it over to you, Cassie, to tell more about the Common Threads family.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jared. Yeah, as Jared mentioned, I'm with Common Threads. I am the senior program manager here in Chicago, so I'm coming from the middle. And I'll also mention that Chef Jared, it is 9 p.m. where he is. So thank you so much for logging on with us and doing this late night cooking class. We really appreciate it. But yeah, a little bit about Common Threads. We do cooking and nutrition education, typically for K through 8th graders. So this is a little outside of our scope, but we're really excited to be working with a lot of different healthcare partnerships and want to get into more working with medical facilities and physicians and working with patients directly as well. So this has been really exciting for us, and we don't often get to talk to adults. So I think that's really exciting for me and for Chef Jared to be here. A couple of our main programs are Cooking Skills and World Cuisine, which is taking students on like a cooking journey, so to speak, to a bunch of different countries and learning the culture and the cuisine of that location. And then we also have Small Bites, which is more of a healthy snack making and basic nutrition education class. But this is really exciting because it's kind of putting together, you know, health and nutrition, applying it to an adult diet and talking about anti-inflammatory things that you can eat to improve your body. So I'll pass it back over to Jared, but thank you all for having us. And Jared, I'll just let you know if there's any questions that pop up in the chat.
Great. Yeah, I know Aman wants to talk a bit about the anti-inflammatory theme that we're going on here. I will say that, as I think all of you know, or hopefully you all know, we're making chana masala tonight. Cassie mentioning the world cuisines that we like to highlight. By no means, I'm not South Asian. I'm not of Indian descent, but this dish is something that everybody can cook and everybody can enjoy. And so we're hoping that you all can enjoy this with us today. And it's a really nice, easy, quick meal that we can throw together. I know our weeknights are often busy, and this is a dish that you can throw together very quickly and with pack a lot of flavor into it and pack a lot of great nutritional benefits and anti-inflammatory ingredients as well. So that will be the cue to pass it back to you, Aman, before we start cooking.
Sure. Yeah. So the theme would be anti-inflammatory, and I am very much looking forward to it. So what we have here, we have garbanzo beans. I was checking garbanzo beans. That the density of protein in garbanzo beans is quite significant. They have about up to 20% of their weight protein. They have a good source of fiber. They do have complex carbohydrates. They're a good source of iron and calcium. So that is a very good amount of protein in the dish that we are making today. We have ginger. As you know, ginger being a good prokinetic, it helps with the digestive system, and it's anti-inflammatory for arthritic changes. Then what else do we have? We have turmeric. As you know, turmeric, it's being used a lot in Middle East, India, and in Asian cuisine. No need to mention any more about the anti-inflammatory or flavonoids of the turmeric that we have. And as we cook, we add some pepper to activate it. Jared can talk more about it. We have garlic and onion. Onion, good source of quercetin. Quercetin being this pigment that's anti-inflammatory, and garlic having allicin, which again, antiviral, anti-inflammatory. So all in all, we are having a very good recipe tonight, anti-inflammatory dish. Knowing that, you know, when we talk about inflammation, anti-inflammatory diet, it's always work in progress. It's not like we make one dish and then expecting that the inflammation going down. But as I mentioned, we are hoping that having a series of this kind of cooking hopefully like 8, 10, 12 sessions, then by the end, we'll all have a better understanding that what causes inflammation, what are the type of foods and snacks that can cause inflammation, and then how we can stay away from them, and what is a good substitute anti-inflammatory snack and food. It's easy to make with good quality protein and mixed carbohydrates that we can have at night. Please mute yourself, and unfortunately, we don't have the option of chat, but there is a reaction button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, and Cassie and I will watch the screen and see if anybody has any questions. And with that, we're going to go back to Chef Jared and enjoy cooking with you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, if just the housekeeping, if you have any questions, you can break my stride, I guess, interrupt, raise your hand. Well, I'd rather have you ask something than be left behind. I also want to be mindful, how many of you, by a show of like just raising your actual hand, I'll go to my gallery view. How many of you are cooking with me tonight? I see a couple aprons on. Great, we at least have a hand. That's great. I see 2 hands from Leanna. Great, awesome, wonderful. So I'll be cooking at I think a decent pace. We've got up for another 45 minutes or so. This dish can be done in about 30 minutes, even with the starch, whatever grain or side that we're doing. I'll kick off with that just because typically brown rice or lentils take the longest to cook. They can take up to 45 minutes. So actually we're hitting a good timing right now with about 45 minutes to go. But again, if there's any time that you need me to stop and pause, raise your hand. Kathy or Ivan will let me know. But I'm going to go through, review the ingredients. I'm going to do a quick overview of the recipe. I like reading the roadmap before we go on the trip, just so that we know what we're doing. Measure twice, cut once, that kind of mentality. So it's always good, just in case you haven't browsed and seen the full recipe yet. So what I'll do here is just screen share really quick. Make sure everybody can see this. Can you all see this? Great, awesome. So we've got our chana masala. If for those of you that don't know, chana translates to chickpeas, and the masala meaning a mixed spice. So you often hear the word masala with a lot of classic Indian dishes. It's referring to the mixed spice, and that differs by region widely. So we're using a garam masala mix today with the chana masala here. So this, if you hear tikka masala, it can be chicken tikka masala, and that's got chicken in it in lieu of probably the starchy garbanzo that we're bringing into the dish here. But the garbanzos are going to give us a nice wealth of like body and nutrients and calories to the dish. So it's, a heavy, nice and rich vegetarian dish that's going to leave us feeling full and energized. You can add, as I noted in the shopping list that you all got, I think you can add proteins of your liking as well. And you can kind of, we'll talk about that if you want to put some shrimp in at the end, or have some grilled chicken that you chop up and fold it in at the end too. But for now, we're going to keep it vegetarian, and we're keeping it gluten-free as well, if gluten is an issue. Although I do have some sourdough bread flat bread over here, but we've got brown rice and lentils as an option as well. So going through our ingredients, listing canola oil here, I would say any neutral oil with a higher smoke point, because we're going to be cooking on a little higher heat. So I have grapeseed oil. I love cooking with grapeseed oil. It's really nice for vinaigrettes too. Sunflower oil, safflower oil. We've got salt, garam masala. There was a recipe if you wanted to make it from scratch. Kudos to you if you did that. If you do make some fresh spice mixes, I often recommend whole spices first, dry toast them, let them cool, and then grind them. You're going to get the most flavor, and whole spices will keep the longest in your pantry. So nice, dark, cool space. It's funny, a lot of spice drawers are right next to an oven, which is like your hottest place in the kitchen. So maybe if you can keep your spices away from your oven, even better. But no worries if not, you just might need to cycle them through a little quicker than, let's call it 6 months or so, that you can usually get out of a dried spice. Cilantro, fresh cilantro. Jalapeno, I also have a serrano to work with. Onion, I know Rachel ran out of white onions when we were talking before. I think she has a shallot or green onion. Don't worry. These kind of dishes, if you like, work with what you have. Don't run to the grocery store just because you don't have a yellow onion or a white onion. So I have a yellow onion today, but that can be interchanged as well. if you need to. 3 cloves of garlic. You've got ginger. I'm going to add a little extra ginger just because I love it. I think it's delicious and it's really good for you, as we're talking about already. Chickpeas, whether it's fresh or canned. Diced tomatoes with the juices. We want those juices. And you could even use some of the chickpea juices as well. You just want to be mindful of the salt there. A lot of times you can get canned beans and canned legumes and different things. Just look for low sodium or no sodium added, if possible even, and then you can control your salt, right? Especially if you're going to use some of the liquid. That bean liquid, the cooking liquid is good. You may hear it called aquafaba. It has lecithin in it. So it has the same protein that you get in egg yolks that is an emulsifier. So some people will use it to make vegan mayonnaise, or if you see drinks at the cocktail bar with an egg white, they use aquafaba in lieu of that to keep the drink vegan if you're practicing vegan. So lemon, and then lemon. We've got some nice citrus to juice out. So we're going to measure our ingredients. So we always start mise en place, things in place is what it translates to roughly. So we're getting all of our ingredients in order, helps keep us organized, make sure we have everything before we start cooking, so we're not scrambling or realizing we lost something. So we've got just washing, drying produce. You noticed, I'm holding it up right now. I don't know if you see in the little sidebar, but when I wash herbs, I just wrap them in a slightly damp towel to put them back into my crisper drawer in the refrigerator. A towel helps wick away moisture from herbs, especially soft ones. And by doing that, you're going to keep the herbs fresh and crisp for longest and not get all soggy. So we've got a hand up from Liana.
Yeah, so real quick, so while we're pulling things together, one of the mods I'm doing, we have a 1 inch of fresh ginger and 1/2 lemon juice. Now I have one of those cans of pre-diced ginger and some lemon juice. And so now what would you say that kind of equates to? So 1 inch ginger equals how much diced?
A good tablespoon. I would say a tablespoon, and if you love ginger, do 2. It's not going to hurt to add a little bit more. I'm going to actually use my whole onion. It calls for a 1/2 onion. I love onion. It's not gonna throw the dish off too much, and I'd rather just use the whole onion anyways. As far as the lemon juice, you can get up to a 1/4 cup of lemon juice out of a lemon if it's super juicy, but I would say a good 2 tablespoons you'd start with, and then work from there. You can always add more. I'm actually going to use some of the zest too, which if you just have bottled juice, you won't have the zest as an option, but start with 2 tablespoons and then just add more as you to taste.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so basically this is a 1-pot shot. We're gonna heat up our oil and cook our onion down a little bit, and then we're gonna get all of our aromatics in there: the garlic, the ginger, the cilantro, the jalapeno. I might hold the cilantro back a little bit until later so that I don't just cook it into oblivion, and so that it's recognizable. So that's one mod that I may do there. And then we're gonna add in our mixed spice, our garam masala, and toast that. So a lot of the good, rich, deep flavor that we're gonna get when we get there is gonna be from that toasted spice blend, okay? Then we'll add our tomatoes, chickpeas. We're gonna add some water if we need it, or at least have water on hand to thin it out, just so it doesn't reduce and get too thick or scorch on the bottom. And we'll just simmer it away. We'll serve it with our starch or our grain on the side, and then brighten it up with some lemon juice and maybe some more fresh herbs on top. So that's it. Sound good? Good. All right. I feel better, at least when I talk through it. Makes me remember, oh shoot, I forgot this, or I forgot my measuring utensil. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Great. So
Jared, we've got a couple of hands up again. I'm sorry to stop you, but Liana,
no, go ahead.
Why
Melanie.
don't we take Melanie first? Yeah.
Just thank you. Just a quick question: how much, if we're adding in the turmeric, and maybe you would have gotten to this at that point, but I would like to measure some turmeric. What do you recommend?
Yeah, let's go with just like a half. For this amount, we're gonna go with like a 1/2 teaspoon, I'd say. A little goes a long way. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I think that's actually the spoon I grabbed. So
great question.
You.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And then I don't know if Liana's hand was from before or if it's new. No more from Liana. All right, it just stayed up. Cool, awesome. First things first, get whatever grain you're going to use. So we talked about, like I said, I have some flatbread with like some onions and tomatoes from earlier in the week that I cooked, some sourdough flatbread. If you have that, that's really cool. We're twins tonight. Lentils, rice. You could just eat this as is. If you have pita, if you have naan bread, tortillas, Whatever you have handy is great. I have some brown rice cooked. I'm also going to cook some lentils because I know I'm going to want to eat this with some lentils or dal, as you'll hear it referred to. So my lentils, it usually is a 2-to-1. Often with rice, it's about 2-to-1, depending on the style of rice. I highly recommend brown rice, so you're getting your whole grain. You're getting all 3 parts of the rice rather than something that's stripped down. You're only getting the processed white germ. So in this case, we're getting some nice green lentils, and then I have some brown rice. 2-to-1 ratio. So I've got 2 cups lentils. I've got 4 cups of vegetable stock on my stove. You can use water. Put, I'd say for every cup, a ½ teaspoon of salt just to season it. So I've got that boiling. I'm going to toss that in. We'll use the stove cam a little later. You don't need to see me pour lentils into a pot, but what I'm doing is just pouring those in, bringing it back to a boil, and then I'm going to simmer it for the remainder of the program until we go ahead and eat our chana masala. Okay, and if you overcook lentils a little bit, it's okay. A lot of times with lentil soup too, if you have any kind of lentil soup, you want to puree. You take a stick blender and puree about half of it, so it's kind of chunky, but also kind of pureed. So I don't mind if they overcook a little. What you don't want is undercooked. Any undercooked grains are going to just be harder to digest, especially when they still have the hull on them when you've got the shell. So I definitely recommend making sure you're cooking your grains all the way. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do, if you like the camera with my cutting board cam, you can look at that. But what I'm going to do here that I think is even better for cooking is getting a top down. So I'm going to use this. And how does that look? That's probably a much better view of my cutting board.
Jared,
and we'll do a little.
I can also spotlight 2 at a time, which is kind of fun.
Oh, awesome! If we have dual spotlight capabilities.
Let me do that for you.
Nice. We got passenger and driver. Sweet. Okay, so hot damn 21st century 20. There we go. Okay. So I've got my tomatoes and my chickpeas. I'm going to drain my chickpeas. I don't mind if there's a little bit of liquid in there. But I'm just going to get some of the non-knife work things out of the way. So I've got my chickpeas here. I just set it over my can just to let it drain off. I love getting the fire roasted tomatoes. I don't know why, it's a habit. I always look for them at the store. I just think they have a little more flavor. You get a little bit of char to them. So I'm going to set that aside. But let's go ahead and keep measuring our stuff out. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So we got 2 tablespoons of garam masala, and then I called for a ½ teaspoon. If you're going to use the turmeric, a ½ teaspoon of turmeric. So garam masala, I know that the common threads recipe is one thing. This one has cumin, coriander. You're often going to see those in black pepper and cardamom. Okay, cinnamon makes its way in, red pepper flake, or some kind of chili flake, nutmeg, allspice. Sometimes you see fenugreek. If you're making a mix and you have fenugreek, a little goes a long way. It's a bittering spice, and it can really become very intense. So be mindful of too much fenugreek. And then, as you know, as some of you know, I'm getting a little stick here. There we go. As most of you probably know, turmeric stains things this kind of burnt yellow, rusty yellow. I guess if you put it in like a dairy, it makes it bright yellow. But just know that you're going to get some color out of it then. So if you don't put the turmeric in, it's going to look a little more earthy in terms of color. In this case, we're going to get kind of a little bit of a rust color as it matches and marries with the tomatoes. Okay. So I've got my spice mix here. It has you cutting the salt in half. So I think I'm going to put a quarter of my teaspoon in with my spice mix, and then the rest of it is going to go with the onion to cook down. We want to season throughout. If you season all at the end or all at the start, it's not going to season your dish evenly. The salt helps to draw moisture out of your ingredients to help them cook down and concentrate the flavors, but it also enhances their flavors. So you want to give them a chance to work together throughout the dish. In fact, if you just season at the end of your dish and make it taste seasoned, you're going to end up using more salt than you would if you season throughout. So for people that give you the stink eye when you're seasoning every couple steps, tell them it's to their benefit. Okay, so I've got that. I've got my oils in containers, so I'm not going to necessarily dirty a dish to measure that out, but we do have some vegetables to cut. I just want to make sure. There we go. Okay, so I've got ingredients that we talked about. Oh, by the way, I like using my little celery leaves for garnish. So I was getting down to the end of my celery, and it's a really beautiful garnish. And celery is a delicious flavor. So if you're wondering what the heck that was. So I've got onion, our base aromatics, onion, garlic, ginger, and some hot peppers. If you're a spicier palate, I like spicy things. So I've got a serrano and a jalapeno. We'll cut that last, just so we're not getting our board all, I guess it's all going to the same pot. We're getting it all spicy. And then we've got fennel too. Fennel's an option. So what I'll do actually first with fennel is take some of these little fronds, some of the, that's going to be for my garnish. So I'm gonna layer the flavor, and we'll have that to garnish, and it'll make it look beautiful at the end. Okay, if you don't have fennel, no worries. Okay, so we'll start with, let's start with onion. That's always, everybody says, how do you dice an onion? Okay, so we've got our root end here and our top end. So what I'm gonna do, let's do a quick knife skills class here as our lentils are cooking away, or our rice. Your 2 fingers on your dominant hand are gonna pinch what's called the bolster of the knife. So what I don't wanna see is holding the knife like this or like this. You're not gonna get as steady of a grip. So you're pinching here. And then if you're a drummer maybe, or if you know a drummer, it's usually your guide fingers at the back, right? So I've got my pinch here. These are just guide fingers to hold my knife in place. And then when I'm cutting, you don't need to be all fancy like the chefs on TV and lift your knife up and swing it and be really fast. It's just nice slow motions. So you keep all your fingertips. And what the motion you want is you want to always keep part of your knife on the board, touching the board. And you want to make it like it's either a bike wheel or a train wheel, like in this motion. So if you take your fist and just do this, this is kind of the motion that you're getting. So I'm just making that motion here. And you're keeping your ingredients steady. So if I'm cutting here, I'm keeping my ingredients steady. Now I'm going to be cutting here and going across, right? And then your other hand is your guide hand as well. No fingers out. Fingers out, you're going to lose them. So what you're going to do, another analogy, I guess, if you played baseball and you're a knuckleballer, you're going to hold your fingers kind of like this, and then your finger becomes a little backstop here. So this is to kind of protect. Again, if I go too high, I'm going to end up going on top of my hand. So I'll do it from this angle too, so you can see. So I'm just keeping it nice and low. I can feel this against my finger. It's usually 1 or 2 knuckles that it touches. And then I can go nice and slow. And I'm cutting with like this back third or 40% of the knife. That's where most of the cutting takes place. I will use the tip on the onion in a second. Okay, cool. So everybody get comfortable for that. If you cut a different way, that's going to probably feel uncomfortable. So even more reason to go nice and slow, maybe break a little bit of a bad habit and get some new little new technique here. But chef's knife should be all we need. I might use a serrated knife for a pepper because serrated for peppers and onions with a waxier skin might be helpful to get through the skins rather than kind of slipping and sliding. Okay, so what I want to do here is just cut. I'm going to cut a little bit off the top here. So in this case, I kind of have to lift my knife off the board just a little bit. And I'm just sliding and taking ever so little off. Now, if this is clean, I can save this in a little bowl for my stock pot. So my vegetable stock over there was made with scraps like this, carrot, onion, celery mainly, okay? So I can save that if I'd like. Now I've got a flat surface. So usually when I'm cutting things, I'm trying to find a flat surface to make it steady. This is unsteady, this is steady, right? So now I can go, and we're gonna do one other cut called a tunnel cut. So I have my hand over here. I've got my knife coming through. So again, an exception for not being completely touching the board, but I'm just gonna go through here and cut through the root right on the half. Now I've got my 2 halves, right? You're probably saying, Jared, thanks. You just took like 10 minutes to cut an onion in half. But once you get the hang of that, you'll be doing 50-pound onion bags in no time, and you can come caramelize onions with me, okay? So we're gonna keep the root intact. That's gonna be our friend. Okay, if this outside layer is a little leathery, it's gonna be leathery when you cook it, so don't use it. Even, you know, I'd err on getting a little more onion rather than using this that's leathery. So this will go in my stock pot. So a lot of times you have to take the top layer off, or maybe it's got a little damage to it or a little dent or something. Okay, so now I've got clean cutting board. I've got my 2 onion halves. And if you've ever seen an onion dice, a lot of times you'll see people, you'll cut it down this way, and then there'll be a cut that goes this way. Or if I'm showing you here and it's gonna go like that, I think this cut is pretty dangerous and you can slip through and cut yourself pretty easily. And actually, I think it's somewhat unnecessary because the arc of the onion, they're a bunch of concentric circles, right? So if I follow the arc of the onion or the rays of the sun or whatever you want to call it, I can make it happen with 2 cuts instead of 3, because normally you're going 1, 2, and then coming back across to go 3. But in my case, I'm going to just come across, and I'll show you here. Let's see if I can turn myself here. So what I'm going to do is going to go through and make cuts towards the middle. So I'm not cutting all the way through, and I'll do this again. So what I've done here is cut towards the middle. So if you can see, it's almost like the Awesome Blossom cut, but I've got it intact because of the root end. So I'll do that one more time with this other onion here. So I'm still using my knuckles to brace myself. Sorry for the awkward kind of angle here. And I'm just doing about 4 or 5 cuts towards the middle. And now when I go across and just cut this way, I don't have to do that kind of dangerous cut on the plane. I can just come right across. So now, based on how big you want your dice, your first cut is going to be, if you want it really big, you make your first cut really wide gaps. If you want it a very small dice, you do really thin cuts. So I would do more of them if I wanted a smaller dice. In this case, I'm just doing like a medium to small dice. So I'm going to come across and I'm just going to cut back across. And I get down to this end here, and I've got maybe just a few more off the end that I can cut. And then this root, if it's clean enough, I can put that in my stock pot too, but I'm not going to cook with that. Okay. So I know the recipe calls for a half onion. You've heard me say it before. I love onions, so I'm going to use the whole thing. Okay. So again, I'm going nice and slow. I'll turn my knife here. So I'm doing this motion, remember, like this. I'm just coming back across once more. And now when I break all these up, I've got nice, pretty even dice across the board, and I didn't put myself at risk by doing that kind of swipe through cut like that. Okay. All right. So let me get a small little bowl. We'll transfer our ingredients so I can clear my board back off. If you don't have like a bench scrape or a dough card to lift your stuff up, don't lift with the knife, the blade towards you. Flip your knife around, and you can kind of take your ingredients that way and put them into the bowl. That way you don't, if you slide your hand on the blade, you're not cutting yourself, okay? So onions are gonna go in first. I'm not gonna start cooking them yet, just because I don't wanna get too far ahead of myself and burn my onions before I have everything else done. Okay, everybody with me? This is a nice slow onion cut, cool, awesome. So onions done, spices ready. All right, ginger. So I have one piece already peeled. One thing you can do, a trick that some people use is use a spoon to peel it. You can obviously use a peeler. So I can use a peeler for part of it to get like the outside, but then you've got these weird little nooks, right? And what I can do is take my spoon and just scrape the outside, and then I can get inside all these little nooks and crannies and peel away with my spoon. Okay, so all those places that you can't get with a peeler, you can probably scrape with a spoon, and you're not wasting a lot of your ginger. Okay, if you had ginger, I think it was Marianne or Marion had the ginger in probably in a brine, or maybe it was even pickled. If it was a pickled ginger, I wouldn't cook it in the same way that they're doing here. But if it's just in a brine and it's like pre-chopped, you just might want to drain or press a little bit of the moisture out of that before you cook it, so you don't get a bunch of splatter from all the water. And also check to see if there's any sugars packed in it, because if there's sugars, it could burn too. Okay. So with ginger, we could do a couple things. There's actually, if we needed a really fine, if it called for like minced ginger or sometimes grated ginger, I could take a thick microplane or thick tooth microplane. That's at least what I'm calling it. And I could take this and just grate it. And it kind of keeps the fibers away. You can kind of see the fur and the fibers is going up. But if not, I'm just going to cut some of this. You're going to have to cut across both ways. If you think about, like, if you've ever cut a steak and you're cut across the grain, you're going to need to cut both ways here, because sometimes it's hard to get through. If it's feeling unsteady, find a flat surface. And what I just want to do is cut some thin planks. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a bunch of thin planks, right, like that. And then I can come back through and cut those planks into sticks or batons. Okay, so once I cut a plank, I'll show you what these are looking like. And I've got some just like loose batons, because we're just going for a mince. So I don't need this to be like a perfect dice or anything. I'm going to end up using a rocking cut in a second. So that'll be another kind of cut that we can show. So I'm just getting this roughly cut. And now I'm going to go here, or I'm sorry, a pivot cut. I'm going to hold my knife down here and just kind of start to go back and forth. Okay. Make sure it's all back in a pile. And depending on how chunky or fine you want your ginger, you know, cut it as small as you want. The smaller you go, the more likely it may be to burn. So I'm just going to get this to a point where it's just kind of roughly chopped like that. And I'll combine this with my garlic and my hot pepper per the recipe. Okay. All right, so garlic next. To peel garlic really quickly, I've got the whole cloves here. I can just put a garlic clove down kind of by the fatter part of the knife and just pop it. Just one swift little hit. I'll do all of them, and then I can go back through and it should just slide right out. Pinch the one end. First one came out so easy. There we go. Pop it out. Now, if you need whole cloves, you probably don't want to smash it like this, but we're going to be cutting this up. So this just makes it a little easier to peel rather than digging your nails in there. I've got all my peels off to the side. Garlic will have a little bit of a root if you see that. So I just want to use the tip of my knife to get the roots off. Okay. So I can dump that off to the side. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to smash it one more time, because we're just going to get a nice kind of coarsely minced garlic here.
Chef Jared, we got a question whenever you are ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
Melanie
Shoot.
here.
Yeah, just a quick question. So my garlic doesn't get used as quickly as it should, and so it gets a little green bit in the middle. What's your opinion on that bit?
Yeah, that's the garlic wanting to grow. So that's just sprouting. What you can do is just cut your garlic in half, and then just pull that out.
Okay,
a little bit's not going to hurt you.
Okay.
Yeah, don't eat it. It's starting to sprout, and it's gonna. Sometimes the sprouting garlic, that's what can give you a little bit of bubble guts, a little bit of gas. Sometimes when some garlic doesn't settle well with people, it's because it may be sprouting, and you're taking the germ. By taking the germ out, you help yourself a little bit. There, so some people just have ill reactions to garlic, but I think, as we know, it's a really good ingredient for it. So just peel that out.
Cool. Thank you.
Or plant it in the yard and hope for next season's garlic harvest.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just roughly chop my garlic again. If I wanted to make that into a paste, I can show you, I would sprinkle a little salt right here and then use my knife and just smash, smash, smash. And the garlic serves as an abrasive. But I don't want to make a paste here because again, that might burn in the pan. I want some nice chunky bits, okay? Let's, I may add if you have fennel, I think I'm going to add the fennel with my onion. That'll be a good time. It's similar in terms of density and cook time. So I just cut this in half. I'll keep this in my fridge. I'll put maybe a damp towel there to keep that fresh and put that back in the fridge face side down. But you see there's a root. I don't know if the glare is too much. There we go. The root there. So what I want to do is just follow the line of that, cut that out. I've got my root out. And now I can kind of go in the same direction that I had my onion. So I'm going to cut all the way through and keep this together. So I did the same kind of cut as I had with the onion towards the middle. And now I'm just going to go back across and cut some nice chunks. And if I miss some, I can always go back and get it. Okay. So again, the fennel here is a great anti-inflammatory. I love the anise flavor in any kind of dish like this. So just to have a nice half of a fennel bulb to complement my onion will be really nice. Okay. And then again, I think I'm going to hold off on the cilantro till the end. I think if you cook it and cook it away for 20 minutes, it might be a little too long. So that's going to be my take. I'm going to go ahead and just cut the ends off of these hot peppers, and we can talk about if you like the heat, you can leave everything, all the seeds in the pith. A lot of the capsaicin, where the heat comes from in the reaction, is stored in the pith and the seeds of a hot pepper. So if you want the flavor without just having that burning hot sensation, what I'll show you here is just going to cut the pepper in half. Same thing with the serrano. Remember, if you're doing this, you're going to want to not touch your eyes, not touch your face, because you will regret it. Cool. So I've got this in half. I'm actually going to get a little paring knife and just go in and cut gently to carve the seeds and this pith out. Okay. The rest of the seeds I can take and kind of tap into my garbage bowl. Definitely don't put this into your stock. It'll make your stock super spicy. It'll surprise somebody. Okay. So if you have a hot pepper, jalapeno, serrano, you're going to go here and just cut this out. Again, that's why I tend to add an extra pepper and take some of this like intense heat from the center out to get the pepper flavor rather than just risking it and taking all the pith that's in it, because the pepper flavor is more so in the flesh itself. Okay, a couple seeds won't hurt. So now I'm going to cut nice slices here. You could dice it finely. I like to have things with different textures. So this is a good time to practice knife cuts if you want to do like a little bias cut, meaning I would cut at a 45-degree angle to do slices, or I could just come across and I'm just going to come through here and cut this way. So remember I said the waxy part sometimes can be a little harder to cut through and slip, especially like on a tomato. So if you do wax side, skin side up, maybe use this serrated knife. In the case of this, I'm just going to go back through and just cut the flesh side now that I've kind of exposed that. And these are going to cook down with the ginger and the garlic. Okay. And also remember that your cutting board now has all of the oils and the juices from your peppers. So don't go cut, pineapple on this and expect it to taste like pineapple. It might catch you off guard, right? Maybe flip your cutting board, maybe just change your cutting board out. Okay. So if I'm just reviewing my recipe really quick, I've got my onions and salt and oil is going to go in. Then I'm going to add ginger, garlic, jalapeno, and then I'm going to toast my spice blend before we add our chickpeas, our tomatoes. So I want to pause there for a second, make sure everybody's in a good place, because I'm going to switch my camera over to the stove and we can start cooking soon. So how's everyone doing? Good place? Tastes good enough?
Catching up. Yeah.
Catching
Almost
up, all
there.
right. Cool. We'll take a couple second pause and people can wipe down their stations. Gonna get my other. There we go. So this will be my pan. Okay, so this is the pan that I'm going to use. So I'm using this is technically called a sauteuse. It's just a high-sided saute pan or like a shorty pot. I don't need a giant pot because this isn't, if I was going to double this recipe, maybe I'd use a big pot, or I could also have like a large saute skillet. But what I just want to have is something to cover it with, because we're going to stew it away in case I need to cover it so that it doesn't reduce down too much and burn. So meanwhile, I've got my lentils over here, and my lentils are actually looking pretty good. You can always, so they've been in here for maybe 25 minutes. I can check. They're looking good. They still have some liquid to absorb. So I might actually tent this just a little bit and turn the heat up ever so slightly. Okay, so preheat my pan here. We're gonna go like medium to medium high heat. I'm gonna get my oil in here and preheating just while everybody's getting a little catch up.
And
Okay.
Chef Jared, while you're preheating, we got a question from Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky, go ahead.
How you doing, Chef? My name is Chef Ricky from Griffith Foods. Can you just elaborate to the group on your preference for using the sauteuse opposed to a nonstick pan, just so they have a little bit more awareness of our preference?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks for pointing that out. So with the higher sides here, this is going to be better for a little stovetop stewing or like braising type of situation, because we're kind of quick braising our chickpeas and our aromatics here. If we had a big nonstick skillet, also the other reason that I want something that's not necessarily nonstick, if possible, is so that we can develop what's called a fond, or a little bit of like some crusty bits on the bottom as we cook our aromatics. Especially when I get my spices in here, I want to create a little bit of a crust down on the bottom, and then I'll be deglazing it with some of the juices from my tomato, or even some of the water that I have, or maybe a residual chicken stock. And so we're getting a lot of flavor development there that we'd miss out on if I just had a just flat, wide nonstick. So Ricky, thanks for pointing that out. That's a good point there.
Thank you, Chef.
And yeah, thanks Chef Ricky for being here. It's good to see you. And Chef Jared, we got one more question for you.
Go for it.
Hi. Hey Chef, it's Mark here with Iman.
Hey Mark.
Hey mate, do you always heat your oil in unison with your pot? You put it in first, or do you I often heat the pot first and then put the oil. So is there any tip?
Yeah, no, my pot, actually, truth be told, my pot was a little warm already, but no, I would normally heat my pot just a little bit and then put the oil in. I don't want to burn my oil. And so the oil will heat up quicker. What I'm looking for, if you're seeing here, is just a little bit of a shimmer, and it's running very loosely, which is a good thing. If you start to see smoke, then you smoked out your oil and you maybe burnt it, and you're going to get off bitter flavors. So don't want that. But yeah, preheat your pot just a little bit. Good point there, Mark. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead. My pan's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and get my onions and fennel in here, and a 1/4 teaspoon of my salt, which for me is going to be one nice generous pinch of salt. I'm going to give that a little bit of a shake and stir. And so I don't necessarily need to develop a ton of color right away, right here. I'm not caramelizing my onions. I don't want this dish to taste like sweet onions. I want it to taste like the fresh toasted spices and all the other aromatics that we have going in. So I'm gonna just kind of keep an eye on this so they don't necessarily caramelize too much, okay? And I'm seeing just a little bit of color. Now, one thing that I could do if I'm saying, all right, too much color, too quick, maybe my pan was a little hotter than I thought, I could drizzle in some water. That would create a steamy environment. I could also take just a lid and cap it for a second, trap some of that steam. It's gonna soften my vegetables and it's gonna not slow down my cooking process still, okay? So we're just gonna let that cook for just a second. I'm just gathering my ingredients to get them over and near me. I've got some rough cilantro chopped as well. So I have that ready whenever I need that. Here, I'll put the screen back down here. So I just have a little bit of rough cilantro chopped. I've got my herbs to garnish for later. I can always garnish with some more. I have some yogurt. We'll have some lemon to juice in later. I'm also going to use the zest of this lemon. We'll put that in at the end to brighten that up. So again, getting my things in place. If you're going to add some protein at the end, I know I suggested some of this mackerel here. I love tinned fish, and it's always easy to have a nice little stash on supply. Add some protein, your omega-3s. That's also a good benefit when we're talking about anti-inflammatory and like healthy ingredients. Okay, if I have some rice, I want some rice or my bread here, my flatbread. Okay, so we'll go back over to the stove, toss my spices back away. All right, so I'm already starting to develop a little bit of caramelization on the base. I want to slow that down. So actually, I'm going to hit this with just a touch of water. Okay, and we'll go in with these are getting nice and soft here. Let that water evaporate off. If you're seeing that your pan is too dry, you can always add just a little bit of oil if you need it. But right now, I think there's enough moisture in here. Hopefully I'm going to turn my fan on just a little bit because I'm going to be cranking the heat in a minute. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let me know if that's messing with my audio. You guys can hear me still, right? My AirPods didn't. That cool, awesome. So now I've added. I might do just a small little drizzle of oil again. I've added my garlic, my ginger, and my peppers. This is my hottest burner, so I actually have it a little below medium now, just to be a little more careful. Okay, so I'm gonna cook this down just for a couple minutes. Again, the recipe says to put the cilantro in here, but I think we're gonna be okay to hold back. Okay. My lentils are looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. And now I'm going to hit my spices in here. So this, again, it's looking a little on the dry side again. And you want a little bit of oil to carry your spices to get some nice toasting in the bottom. And this is a fair amount of spices, so they're actually going to dry your pan out. And you're going to immediately get a bunch of great smells and flavors coming off this pan. And there's a fine line between deeply toasting your spices and burning them. So let's just be mindful that we're not scorching your pan. Again, you have a little bit of water on hand. If it looks like you're scorching it too much, you can always drizzle some water in. You notice already, my pan looks a little dry. I want to add just a little bit more water, so a little bit more oil, I'm sorry. So I probably maybe added an extra teaspoon or so of oil than the recipe called for. Okay, so I'm just going to let this toast for a minute. It smells very, very good. How's everyone doing that's cooking along? Just for the sake of time, we'll probably not cook this the full 20 minutes. If you want to keep it stewing on your stove top until after we cut, but I also want to be respectful that everybody's time and everything. Okay, so you see I'm getting a little bit of that fond that I talked about there with the spices. I don't see anything that's charring black, so this is good. I don't want to make the dish greasy, so I don't need too much more oil, but I want this fond to be developing like that. You see that? So I'm just going to give this one more minute, maybe let my vegetables soften just a little bit. I've controlled my heat. I'm back down to like a medium heat here. And what I'll do then is take some water to deglaze before I put my tomatoes and my chickpeas in. Drain off the last bits of that liquid. Okay, so I've got my chickpeas ready. I've got my can of fire roasted tomatoes here. Great, so I'm getting some really nice deep color there. That's what we're looking for. So I'm just gonna take maybe a half cup of water and deglaze. And I'm gonna use my spoon, my wooden flat spoon here, or you can use like kind of a firm spatula and get all of that up. You see how that's all now become loosened up, maybe just a little more water. The water's not gonna dilute your dish because you're evaporating it off pretty quickly. What I wanna do is use that as a steam bath to lift all of those toasted flavors that are stuck in the pan. And this is a super important part here to develop the flavor here that will carry through to the end, okay? So that's great. I'm gonna go ahead, add my tomatoes in. They're nice chunky tomatoes. They'll break down even a little bit more. Got my chickpeas. Like I said, if you want to use a little bit of that liquid, it actually will help to enhance and enrichen your dish just a little bit. And I don't want this to boil away. I want this to kind of just be stewing and all these flavors to marry. I can already see that it's a little too thick. This is almost about the consistency that I want when it's finished. So I'm gonna take this like last half cup. I probably had a full cup of water. So I'm just gonna take that last half cup of water, keep my medium heat going, and put my lid here and just tent it, okay? So we're gonna let that stew away. Let's go ahead back to main camera. I think my headphones may actually be dying. So I'm gonna take my headphones out here.
Can't hear you quite yet. Oh, you're probably working on it though.
Can you hear me?
Got it. Yep.
Great, awesome. Okay, so as that's just finishing up, I just want to we'll get some presentation ready. I guess if I'm going to, I want to serve this in one of my bright colored dishes here that I have. Just washed this, so I've got this nice yellow little crock here. And what I'm going to do here is get my lemon juice ready to add to the dish. So I'm going to go ahead and zest and juice my lemon. Whenever I've got a whole lemon, I'm going to go ahead and make use of the zest, give it a little rinse in warm water, just to get if there's any waxy coating on it or any kind of dirt. So I'm going to, instead of zesting like this, you don't want to press down on the teeth of your microplane and smash them. You just want to go in one direction. And I actually like to go, if anybody is a bow instrument player, kind of go across the top. And then by keeping it upwards, I've got this little trough to keep all my zest in. So I can kind of just go across my lemon. I'm gonna zest probably half of it and juice half of it. And that's what I'll add to brighten up the dish at the end. I could do this over a sieve, or I could just do it over my hands here just to make sure that I catch any wayward seeds. Okay. So I think I'll add this lemon juice and lemon zest along with my cilantro, my coriander there. I'm gonna hold off on the mackerel. I'll probably save that for my lunch with the chana masala tomorrow. But I will keep these other garnishes around. I'm gonna actually clear this off so we can get a nicer look here at the finished product. All right, so we'll keep the yogurt on the side to spoon on. Got some flatbread there. I've got my herbs to garnish. If you want to take a peek at the stove cam here, getting a little hot there, a little aggressive, but it's nice and saucy. About now is when I would taste to see how the salt is, how the acidity is. Remember, our lemon's going to add acidity. But I also want to make sure that my fennel is softened and everything's kind of married and come together. So I'm going to let that go just another. The thickness is just about right for me. Remember, I'm going to thin it out with the lemon juice. So I want it to be a touch thicker, maybe than I would want. If I come back to the main screen here, I've got my nicely cooked green lentils. So this is probably, I'd probably be portioning this for 2 people, since I've got a little bit of everything. All right, so I'm gonna save this little section here for my chana masala. We'll keep the yogurt. The yogurt's gonna act as a cooling agent, not only to cool the temperature down, so we can dive in quicker, but also if there's too much spice going on, we can cool down the spice a little bit. Cassie, I'll have you toggle me back actually, because I'd say we can go ahead and finish. How's everyone's chana masala looking? Are we getting towards the end here, just as I am?
Yeah, very
Seeing a
pretty.
lot of seeing a lot of thumbs up.
What's that?
Seeing a lot of thumbs up, and somebody said it was very pretty.
Oh, great,
Sounds
awesome.
delicious.
Great. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead now. These colors are awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and dump my coriander in. I'm gonna trust that I want all of that citrus. Give this a stir through. So this could also just be served in a bowl over some jasmine rice. You can get brown jasmine rice too, or basmati rice. That's what my brown rice is, actually basmati brown rice. You could serve this straight over the dal. I like to keep them separate. If you're going to do the lentils, keep them a little separate. But that looks beautiful as is. Again, like I said, if you just had this with some paratha or naan as itself, would just be a beautiful meal. So this is the point. If anybody was folding in shrimp or tofu, or had some extra vegetable, or if you just had some fish to flake in, some chunks of fish, this would be the time on that stove when you folded in the coriander and you folded in the lemon. This would be the good time to fold the rest of the fish in, and given all that residual heat, it's going to cook in just a couple minutes, unless you have a big chunky hunk of something. But I would recommend chunking some kind of fish, or if you had like little, baby or mid-sized shrimp, right? There we go. I'd say we're ready to eat here. Maybe another extra little lemon wedge on the side if I want to slice some more lemon. So that was it. With all my yapping and all my pausing, we still had this meal in like 40 minutes. And I've got enough to feed 8 people at least. So gonna need some people to fly out east pretty quickly to come enjoy. So, all right. Cool. Who's got questions? Who's got thoughts? Who's tasting their dish right now and hopefully it tastes delicious?
We have questions, Ricky and M.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Just to touch base, Chef. My name is Ricky Trochet. I'm a chef at Griffith Foods, which is a spice and seasoning company based out of the Chicagoland area. Chef Jared, much kudos. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to show me and the rest of the participants how to make an anti-inflammatory dish in the Chena Marsala. Greatly appreciate it. Such an inspiration. Thank you to Dr. Emily, Iman, Cassie, and the Common Threads group for including me into this seminar and cooking demonstration. And I greatly appreciate it. But much love and kudos, and keep up the great work. Appreciate it.
Awesome. We need thank you for saying all that. We need you to send some spice kits out for next time. We'll get a curated spice kit, and I'm always happy to support the Chicago being my hometown. So
F, let's connect. Let's do it. I'm willing
Right.
and available and ready to do whatever we need to support the Common Threads organization, the young children, and each other. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Kudos.
Thanks for being here. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
M. Oh, did we lose her?
Cassie, I don't know if nobody probably knows this, but I have my Common Thread shirt on too. I wasn't skimping on my shirt. I just got to show Cassie
Okay.
that.
I don't know what happened.
I think I
Excuse me.
missed.
Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
think I missed what you were doing with the mackerel. That looked super yummy.
Oh yeah. So if I didn't put it on yet, if I was, thank you for asking. I would take this and just flake it over the top. Because seeing that it's already cooked, any tinned fish is already processed, or maybe it's smoked, I would just flake it on top. It's nice and delicate, and maybe even drizzle some of the oils on there too, especially if it's, I air to pay a little bit more for my tinned fish so I get higher quality, so I can use all the oil and all of the good bits. And yeah, I love mackerel. Yeah.
I do too. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
They're a very good source of omega-3s. And then we have Peg.
Hi, thank you. This is awesome. I make a dish similar to this, and I actually had to mix up some more garam masala while we were cooking because I didn't have enough left. It's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. And now my husband realizes that I know how to cut and all that kind of stuff. But it was awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing the class. And I'm in for doing something with Common Thread. I love cooking. My husband said a chef is somebody who cooks for people he doesn't know, and a cook is somebody who cooks for other people that they like. And I said I always cook with love. So
Well, you're making your own spice blends and everything, so that's definitely some love going in there. That's wonderful.
I'm always making things from scratch, which ends up taking longer than it should, but
It's the outcomes. I'm sure always are benefits. It's beneficial
good
for
stuff.
We have a mascot now. We have a mascot.
Yeah. Somebody's coming
That's
to try to
D'Artagnan.
do your question. Hold on.
Thank you so much.
You have to raise your hand. Chef, we have a question from Mark.
Mark.
Yes. Give me the 3 vegetables that you would grow at home that have the most differentiated flavor versus the store-bought.
Wow, great question. That's put me on the spot with 3. I mean, tomatoes number 1. A fresh tomato is vine ripened tomato is second to none. I would say eggplant. So what we often see at the store, if you go to farmers markets, you get varieties, but you just get the big old bitter globe eggplant. And that's why people don't like eggplant, because you get some gnarly, but all the different, the different Asian varieties of eggplants, and the long skinny ones, and the graffitis, and the little gem ones, and teardrops. There's so many varieties, and with the skins that are more palatable, you can eat the whole thing. You don't have to peel it and soak it with salt. So eggplant, just so I could convert people, because everybody hates eggplant. Relatively. Tomatoes, eggplants. Oh man, what else? I guess probably just, if I can say herbs, just fresh herbs. Pick whatever herb you want, because the shelf life of your herbs are just going to be, it's so easy to grow. And I think the shelf life, and you can just go and clip it as needed. So those would be.
And they are pretty pricey in the store.
Yeah, you get one of those little clamshells, and they charge you $2.99 for it for 1.5 ounces of something that may last you, like, you're going to use a sprig and then it's going to go bad. Where you can go buy a little plant starter for $1.99 and have a whole bush of thyme. So yeah.
Shiso. Yeah, we have been growing shiso.
That was an awesome question, Iman.
Oh, shiso, shiso, awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
I love shiso and stir fries, and you can steep it if it's red shiso, and you can make it'll turn your like teas and drinks like electric pink. You can make like a shiso lemonade. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you. Okay.
Everybody, don't let it get cold.
Any other comments, questions? Everybody's food is ready, and I think it's time for us to start eating here. Lou has a good, hi Lou, welcome.
Hi, and I really so appreciated, Chef Jared, all your tips on using a knife. It's so important to, prevent any injuries, and dull knives being the worst. How often do you sharpen your knife? Is it every single time that you cook? And also, if you had to pick one type of chef knife, one brand or whatever, and I don't know if you can do this, but what kind do you use?
Sure. So in terms of sharpening, I think using a honing steel. So there's sharpening and then there's honing. So I will hone my knife before and after I cook every time. It's just a habit, and it doesn't take much. So if I have my knife here, and again, you don't have to be like the fancy chef on Top Chef. You can just go nice and slow, and you want roughly a 21-degree angle. So that's 90, and half is 45, and half again. So, and you're just going to go back and forth a couple times, wipe your blade clean with a towel you're not going to use on food. I do that before and after I cook every time. And then sharpen knives, the ones that I use a lot, maybe once a month. So if you're going to go down a YouTube rabbit hole and figure out how to sharpen your own knives with a stone at home, all the power to you. Or find a local knife sharpener. A lot of times farmers markets have a knife sharpener that'll do your garden shears and your razor blade and your knife all in one.
How about an electric sharpener?
They can work too, depending on the kind of steel though. Like, so if you have like a sturdy German steel, or some of the heftier knives, or just like a knife like this that I would call like a beat around knife, those are okay. If you have softer steel, or Japanese, like I have a bunch of Japanese steel knives that are beautiful, and if I put that on an electric sharpener or any of those like kind of pre-made sharpening blades, it would tear it to bits. And it actually makes it worse, and it degrades the steel. So you want to, if you have the thing is, the higher quality of the knife, you probably want to take it to a professional sharpener to reset the edge when you need that. But
Okay.
So that being said, I like whooshed off, like just a good quality whooshed off knife. Global is another good brand that's pretty affordable. And even just getting like Victorinox is something that you'll see is like a very budget friendly knife that you can kind of beat around and use pretty well. And then everything's about style and length. If you like 7 inches versus 9 inches versus 8, I like just a classic chef's knife and a paring knife. You can do just about everything with that. And then add a serrated knife for your bread and your tomatoes, you're done. Yeah.
And what do you think about ceramic knives?
They're nice. it's not a preference. I think the weight is a little too light for me. I like to have a little more weight, but if that's something that you like, if you like a lighter weight knife, those are very nice as well. They're sharpening those is a little different story as well. You need a ceramic honing steel rather than metal or diamond. So it all
Thank
comes.
you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great, thank you, Lou. Peg, sorry, Laurie. First go to Laurie, and then we go to Peg.
I know we're getting toward the end, but mine is way too spicy. I can't do it. Onions, there's no onions. There's only one clove of garlic. There's probably what you did, this much ginger. And I can't touch the jalapenos. So I did like a teaspoon and a half from a can. And so what are the tricks to tone it down? I also made a bunch of green lentils like you did. So if I pour them all in there, and then do I put like the yogurt that you said at the time you serve it to cool it down? I mean, really cool it down.
Yogurt to cool, or you could also
When you cook it though now or later?
You can cook some yogurt into it as well.
Okay.
You could stir some yogurt in. Also, if you have any if you need it immediately, maybe if you have leftover like boiled potatoes or something, potatoes will suck up some flavor. No? All right, then I would just say add some more chickpeas or add some more tomato, or even just stir in some yogurt into the pot and let it kind of like almost soft boil for 10 minutes, and that'll kind of temper it.
And rice too, how about lemon juice? Would it help?
Lemon juice will tone it down a little, but it's just lemon juice is gonna brighten the dish more than take away the spice. Yeah.
Okay.
So dairy helps.
Okay.
Water carries spice, dairy tampers spice.
I know this isn't what this dish is intended to have, but you could do grated cheese on top too, if it's still too hot.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to just keep going yogurt.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you have you could kind of get a little cross-cultural if you had a can of coconut or something like that. It kind of, you could pour some coconut milk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Peg.
I just wanted to say we have this I don't know if you can see it, crock sticks. It's a ceramic knife sharpener that works really well. I think it's from Minnesota or something. It's like old school, but it's really good, and it's helpful to have at home. But QFC and some other places do knife sharpening also.
It's like a V, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have two different ones. You have this little thing, and you put them in like this, and you just kind of slice down like that. And you do one to get out any burrs, and then you do the other one to really sharpen it. It's really good.
It's like a more intense honing steel, right? Because the honing steel, your knife, as it gets dull, the teeth overlap like this.
Right.
And as the knife gets dull, it goes like this. So then when you rub it on the honing steel, it stands them up. Over time, though, you need to reset that edge. So eventually any knife you'll want to go and have reset and sharpen, but those, the more intense kind of grinders like that will help reset your blade a little better. Yeah.
Anyway, we really like it, but it's helpful. But thank you so much again, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you so much. I know it's late for you. It's almost 10:30 for you, Chef. So appreciate you again being here, making the time for us. That was wonderful. Our food is ready. We're gonna eat and enjoy and remember you, and hopefully we can repeat it or have more classes in the near future. Thank you again. Everybody enjoy your dinner, and we will see you in the next round of our Cha-Chiming seminars.
Bon appetit. Thanks for cooking along. Thank you for having me, the opportunity.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Good to see all of you.
And please stop sending us the rain. We're getting flooded out here. Stop sending the rain, please.
Send it to Chicago. Hold it in the middle. Okay.
Let it stop at Lake Michigan. Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night.